So, how does a new country actually get on the world map? Officially, it's not as simple as just planting a flag and drawing some borders. There's this whole process called state recognition, and really, it's all about how a nation earns its exclusive VIP pass to the global community.
And that brings us to the big question at the heart of it all. Is recognizing a new country a purely political choice, kind of like picking your friends? Or is it more of a formal legal decision where you just tick off the boxes on a checklist? Well, that's the puzzle we're going to solve together today.
All right, so to crack this puzzle, we first have to get a handle on the main clue. What does recognition even mean in the world of international law? Okay, check this out. The definition itself from the Institute of International Law gives us a huge hint. It calls it a free act. Now, that little phrase is everything. It means recognizing another country isn't mandatory. It's a completely voluntary choice that existing countries make to say, yep, we see you, you look like a country, you act like a country, you're independent. It's basically the established members of the club giving a formal nod to the newcomer. But you can't just show up and ask for that nod. Before a potential new state can even get in line, it has to meet some pretty specific criteria. Think of it as the official application form, the statehood checklist, if you will.
According to the jurist Hans Kelsen, there are 4 absolute must-haves. And trust me, each one is there for a really good reason. First, you've got to be politically organized. You need a government that actually works to keep things stable. Second, you need control over a specific territory, right? Otherwise, you'd have endless fights over borders. Third, that control can't just be for a weekend. It has to be stable, leaning towards permanent, to show it's not just some temporary takeover. And finally, number 4, you must be truly independent, not just a puppet for another state. You have to pass all 4 of these just to be considered.
Okay, so let's say a new nation checks all 4 boxes. What happens when other countries finally decide to grant it that VIP pass? Well, this is where everything changes. Recognition is so much more than just a pat on the back. It unlocks actual, tangible powers on the world stage.
First up, and this is a big one, you get a seat at the international table. You can now engage in formal diplomacy, send ambassadors, and, this is crucial, sign binding treaties. That's your ticket to joining global trade pacts, security alliances, you name it.
Recognition also gives you a proper legal identity. Suddenly, this new state can go to court in other countries to protect its rights or enforce contracts. Of course, it's a two-way street. It can also be sued. The point is, it's now a legitimate player in the international legal game. And that leads to maybe the biggest perk of all, sovereign immunity. This is huge. It basically means a recognized state and its property, like an embassy or its bank accounts, are protected from being dragged into court in another country. It's a powerful shield that says, hey, we're a sovereign equal here. And this isn't just some abstract theory. It's backed up by real-world legal cases. This principle basically says it all. Once you recognize another state, you are legally required to treat it as an independent sovereign. The political decision triggers a whole avalanche of very real legal rights and responsibilities. So we've seen all the amazing benefits of being inside the club. But what's it like for those left on the outside? What happens when you're not recognized? Well, the reality is pretty stark. Honestly, the difference is like night and day. An unrecognized state is effectively a ghost in the international system. It can't sign treaties, it can't go to foreign courts to defend itself, and its diplomats get zero special protections. In the real world, this means no loans from the World Bank, your passports might be useless, and your ability to trade is crippled. You're stuck in a state of legal limbo, and it comes with massive, massive disadvantages. So, we've looked at what recognition is, the checklist you have to complete, and the huge gap between being in and being out. Now it's time to put all the pieces together and finally solve our big puzzle. And here it is. At the end of the day, the decision to recognize a new state is fundamentally a political act. There's no world's court that can force a country to do it. It's a choice, a policy decision, based on national interest. A country might refuse to recognize a new state to support an ally, or to avoid upsetting a powerful neighbor. But, and this is the key, the moment that political choice is made, it unleashes an undeniable wave of legal consequences that completely changes that new state's place in the world. So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. If getting into the Club of Nations all comes down to a political choice made by the countries already in the club, well, what does that tell us about who really holds the power to draw and redraw the world map? It leaves us with a pretty fascinating question about power, politics, and the very lines that define our world.